You're on the podcast with Dino and Ashley.
You were waiting.
I was going to try to beat you.
You were going to try and get to it?
I knew.
I saw it in your corazón.
I was like, wait, are we talking first? Are
because
we preparing?
You had a little smirk on your face. And I'm like, here it comes. I know she's going to shoot a shot right at me.
We are recording this episode number 5 of Designed to Last at the Bee's Nest in Isle of Palms.
This episode brought to you by the Bee's Nest.
We are in a pretty sick situation right now. Yeah. We are at the tippity-toppest point of the house in a like yoga room that is just filled with light. So we thought this would be a fun spot to record.
Yeah, behind me is a spiral staircase.
Yeah.
Going all the way up. It's kind of a cool vibe. And we don't have mic boom things because we couldn't travel with them. So this is going to be an awkward clickety-clack one.
No, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to talk about, what are we talking about? Gassing each other up?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think a quick recap. We've already talked about some of the importance of reducing the barriers in your marriage, the importance of like having goals in your marriage, both as an individual and as couples, right? Like that's some of the intent behind what Ash and I have been talking about here is like, let's get some of the pre-work done. Why don't you unpack that? That's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. Our thoughts control the words that we speak, about ourselves or about our spouses. So the thoughts that we have, they overflow into the words that we speak to our spouses. And then those words that we speak create actions. And so what are we thinking about? I, funny enough, had been reading in my Bible this week and in a book, and that verse came up multiple times about keeping our thoughts captive.
Taking your thoughts captive. Your cots captive.
Taking our cops captive. Yes. No, I can't even say it.
I literally want to get a hat that says taking your cops captive.
People will read it and be like, yes.
I do.
Wait, what? What does that say? That's like when I say crooks and nannies on Instagram and people are like, you just said that wrong. I'm like, I know that. That's why it's so funny. All right, we got to make a couple of shirts and hats now.
Oh, dang it.
Crooks and nannies and cops captive.
Well, I mean, all right, so I have been thinking similar stuff, and you and I have been conversing back and forth on this. And what this kind of like means to me, that Bible verse of taking your thoughts captive, is that it's basically signaling that we have an ability ourselves to make decisions with our thoughts, our words, our actions. And you're not just like at the whims of how you feel.
Right, because most of the time my heart and my feelings are very, very awful and sinful.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Bible says that your heart is deceitfully wicked above all else, right? So your heart lies to you,
Yeah. But I think that this is something that we fall into, when we're tired or overworked or the kids are irritating us or whatever. That overflow of that irritation can be, typically is pushed towards our spouse.
Bad stuff that's going on in your life has an impact on the way you're thinking, right? And the ease under which that you can go to a bad spot. But I think that just as easily allowing your mind to meditate on things that are negative, on not the positive aspects of your spouse or anything in life, but we're specifically talking about marriage here. If you allow your mind to sit on those things in a negative way, then that's what you're going to get. Me having negative thoughts about you, me being irritated about aspects of the little things that you're doing or something like that. Like, oh, you're not giving me love. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. If I sit there and like stew on that, allow those thoughts to just sit and spiral in my mind, that's going to come out in the wash.
Right.
Like I'm going to think, if I'm thinking those things about you, I'm going to start talking just little bits of that back at you. And then that's going to overflow then in how I'm going to act in front of you and treat you. And then ultimately how the kids then how they're watching me and their behavior, it has an effect. It all trickles down. Yeah.
I mean, this is what we've always said too, the way that I think about Dino, or we think about our spouses, is going to affect how I feel about him. So if I'm looking at Dino and I'm thinking, man, he doesn't work out at all and he's so lazy and I don't like his body and I don't, like all these negative thoughts, that is going to overflow into the way that I communicate with him and view him. And it's a downward spiral of just this negativity within our marriage. But if I choose to find the positive things, like I mean, it's something, it goes hand in hand with praying and asking God, Lord, give me the desire for him in those ways. And this is just specifically talking about like, you know, let's say like a physical side. Give me the desire to lust and long for him. So praying for it is very powerful. And then also you just have to meditate on those things and remind yourself of those things and constantly repeat those things to you, because that is going to overflow and you're going to be like, I do love the way Dino looks. I do love, he's such a strong leader. He, you know, raises our kids so well. And be specific too. I love the way that Dino always closes the dishwasher after he is done doing the dishes. Yeah. Instead of Dino never puts the spoons inside, you know, you can pick out the negative or you can pick out the positive.
This aspect of life that's kind of been like, I've also been stewing on this attitude of like just being grateful and having gratitude in your life, you know, and the importance of having that perspective. I can't even take credit for it because I feel like God's like just been doing it in me without me doing anything. I've just been like so overwhelmed lately with like the little aspects of you specifically that I'm just so grateful for. And then it was funny, like we were at dinner the other night, like 2 nights ago, and I literally just had to stop. You were talking to me about something or the other, and I was just like overwhelmed with like the gratitude. Like I was just so grateful. I was like, man, she's my wife. Like my mind was stewing and meditating on the positive aspects of you for like days, and I just like was bursting at that point. I know it sounds like really silly and people are going to be like, that's like gushy or whatever, but
no,
you know,
but that's what happens when you create that habit in your life. And I remember now that you're saying that, we were going to talk about this.
Oh no, I have no idea. You do this and I don't know what bomb you're about to drop.
But this when this was happening when this was happening, I was like, oh man, we got to talk about this on the podcast, because this also is the same thing. You can find the negative. It is so easy to pick people apart. We can pick ourselves apart. We can pick our spouses apart so easily. It doesn't matter how much you love somebody, you could pick them and destroy them.
Yep.
But it's not beneficial. That's why we don't need to do that. No. And it is so beneficial to build them up in your mind. You need to be gassing your man up constantly in your mind, verbally, with your thoughts, your words, your actions. We should be the number one fan for each other. Yep. And when you do that, you do start to become the number one fan just by speaking it and thinking it. Yep. So my example was, we were having sex and Dino was like, oh my gosh, I get to have sex with you. And I love that we're doing it.
We're doing it. It's all
no, but I feel like even in that moment, like, yes, we're married. We get to have sex with each other whenever we want, all the time. But to have that mindset while you're being physical with your spouse too, be like, I get to be with you. Like, I get to be with your body. And like, instead of picking the body apart, you're like, building that body up in your head, building that person up in your head. I was like, that is such a great thing. Again, it's the words, it's the thoughts and the words, and then it goes into the action.
Yeah. But for that, like what you're kind of talking about was absolutely the overflow of like me having that kind of mentality for like days and days and days. And I was just like, I cannot believe that you're mine. I cannot believe that I am like, this is my life and this is my scenario. And we've been together for 18 years and we've been together like so many times. And it's just like, I was freaking out mentally. And like, what a concept. I firmly believe that what God has in the context of marriage is so much better than what the world is offering you. The world is constantly going to be telling you, oh, you should go out and, you guys, you can go get crazy with girls and there's all this fun you can go have. That is such absolute nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And like in that moment, it was just like overflowing in me. I was like, man, I've been like all the things I've been through with you and all the aspects I just like absolutely love about you. I just can't believe it. And that's what I feel like is like, I feel like we have an ability to like share with other people. It's like,
and it can start so simple too. Just like we're going out to dinner and you walk out or you're in front of people and you say, you look so hot tonight.
Oh yeah.
Like gas them up.
Yeah.
Get them fired up. We should be the one doing that for one another.
Yeah.
Constantly.
I'm sure there's like, if I sat and dwelled on the aspects of you that I really wish that you were, I could sit and like, I could have a completely different mindset. I mean, I don't see how, honestly, because right now I have such this picture of you that is like incredible and amazing. You really are insane.
Of course, we could all do that.
But like, what if everybody just had this mentality of like, whoever you are, I'm just going to absolutely adore and love that person, like right now, whoever that is. And yes, there's aspects of like, oh, I wish you would work out, to your point earlier, or I wish that you would be into this, or I wish you would guide me more as like a husband, or I wish you would be more of a father. I wish there's a million things that I'm sure that people are listening right now and they're like, oh, these are the aspects of my house or my husband that I know that I would love to pick apart and like fix or change. But what if you literally just like gassed up your husband over every attribute of the things that you love about them, and you captured every thought and you only meditated on the things that you really, really love about your spouse, and the things that you do not love about them, either forget about them, do not allow those thoughts to ever come in your mind again, do not allow those negative thoughts to come in. Or on the other side of it is like, just pray that God will change that aspect of your spouse, because there's aspects in you that I've really, really wished that you would like adopt in your life. And I have not pushed on you. I've just prayed and then fed you. And I knew what you wanted from me, and I gave you everything that I could. And then I was like, God, change this aspect in her, you know? And like, you have completely exceeded everything that I've ever wanted in every phase of our lives, you know?
Well, and it also goes back to like what we were saying on the last episode, I believe, you know, God, these are the things that I would love to see my husband grow in or my wife grow in, but also work on me, change me so that I can love my spouse for who they are. You know, I was saying like with the gamer, the person that doesn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
To find you attractive and to lust and long after you, no matter what situation. So it's both people, it's both of us. And so many times, man, we'll go out to dinner with another couple and it's just a constant like tear down on the other person, back and forth. And you've created this like downward spiral. And I get it. we've been there before where we've really just like, you know, picking each other apart.
Absolutely. We've been in that phase.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah. And it's just so easy. Once one person does it, then the other one, you got to fight back because you can't let that person win, you know, and you got to protect yourself and protect your heart.
Exactly.
But that's not what God wants for us.
No.
He wants our hearts to be soft and for us to be the one to welcome in that sort of behavior. We can start that change individually. We can start that within our marriages.
Absolutely. All right. So I have a little story. I hope that I don't put my buddy on blast, but like I was talking with him, hanging out with him, grabbing a beer the other night. And we were just kind of going back and forth, and he's asking me some of his, you know, he's like, hey, I really want these aspects of my life to get better. I want to like push on myself. I want to be this better man. And I was like trying to work through him and stuff. And he got kind of hung up on an aspect of his spouse that he really wished that they would do. And that aspect of that something that they were doing, the aspects of your spouse that you're currently fixated on need to be things that you significantly counterbalance on the other side by you feeding into them. So if there's an aspect of your wife, again, we'll just use the stupid example that I was giving here, that he needed like certain things tidied up around the house before he felt like he could then equivalently give feedback in or something like that. And I think that a lot of us do this. I know I do this. I'm like, well, I'm not going to give XYZ until I get this back. You need to fully commit to what it is that you know that she needs and the man that you need to be before you ever ask for anything. There's a speck in my eye when I see a plank in yours, or sorry, there's a speck in your eye and I have a plank in my own eye. Like, take out the plank in your own eye before you go and start ever trying to address anything in your spouse.
Yeah. It's really easy to just get on that negativity train.
Yeah.
And one person says something or isn't doing something.
Yeah.
And then the other person's like, well, I guess we're doing this game now, you know?
Yeah.
And you put on your little tough, hard shell.
Yeah.
And it's not a fun game to be on.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a fun game to watch either.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that makes for some awkward meals.
I know.
And whenever we've had dinner with people like that or been hanging out, I just want to go in and like blow a whistle and be like, let's start over.
Yeah.
Just
I wish you could like time out it and pull them aside and be like, hey, just try this.
You're acting like a jerk. You're acting like a jerk. You're both jerks, you know.
Seriously.
Somebody needs to do that to us too. It's
I was
not-
going to say most of the time we
it's
have to
us.
pause and do
Yeah.
it to each other, right? Or
You guys
yourself.
are both
ourselves.
jerks.
Yeah.
Now shut your mouths and start over. What do you love about him? Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
You know,
it's easy for you and I to use other people as examples when it's really just you and I that are like
Absolutely.
having the problem.
we're the
right?
worst. Yeah.
Yeah. Number one, really take captive the thoughts that you have about your spouse. Really think about them as positive as you possibly can. And any of the negative things. Oh, this is one other thing I wanted to make sure that we talked about this week. Any of the negative things that are coming into your mind, like shut that down immediately. And the worst thing you can possibly be doing is outwardly talking about your spouse negatively to someone else. Never do that. Don't even allow that thought to come in your mind. And you definitely don't want to go like speak it out into existence, because it validates by saying something, it like reaffirms in your own mind what it is that you're thinking.
I mean, I think it's different though if you are going to a very safe person or counseling and you're trying to grow in that area.
Totally.
And you're not just going like for a bash fest on your spouse.
Totally.
I said this in the book too, that I had a really difficult time when we first got married. We would go out to dinner, I would go out to dinner with a group of girlfriends, and it was just like margaritas and bashing our mans. And I would leave and feel just sick to my stomach about it. And you feel like you have to participate because you don't want to be.
So you told them
all the things. I mean, I know that I have before, but I do specifically remember times where I didn't, and I just didn't want to participate. And I'd call Dino crying and I'd be like, I hate going to these girls' dinners. I don't want to be like that, and I don't want to be a part of that. Sure, there's things I could pick apart, you know? We could all do that.
Oh yeah.
You could easily do that. You're like, I got a list right here. But I don't want to partake in that. And what does it do? It's not beneficial. If you do need to talk about certain things and talk things through, go to somebody that you trust, go to counseling together. I have like probably less than a handful, like one or two people that I ever open up to about things. And the only reason why I would is because I know that they're going to correct me and bring me back into alignment. It's not hey, Dino's doing this and he's the worst and I hate, it's, hey, I am struggling with this right now, with this aspect of something within our marriage, and I need to know how to get out of it. And I welcome in, you need to get your crap together, Ashley. It's you, That is the type of counsel that we need to be receiving, is that it's benefiting us as a whole, as one organism, and not just correcting and bashing the other person.
Absolutely. I think you and I could almost do a whole podcast on the importance of surrounding yourself with people that are going to be pushing you and your spouse and your marriage and your life in the right direction, right? I think that, and I actually think we've even talked about this. You need to cut the people that are not doing that. You need to basically cut them out of your life. That is not a healthy investment to be putting those types of people in your life. So a prime example is that Ash and I for a long time prayed that we would have just somebody just ahead of us, just a tad, like 10 years ahead of us, that have already walked through aspects of life that we could just go to and be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And they would give us like godly wisdom that would help us move forward in like the right direction. I feel like we've really been given that now, especially with like Eric and Susan there.
Yeah. With parenting, with just life, with, finances, just somebody that we could have like as a mentor. And I think that's really, really important to have somebody in your life that you can just go to, that you trust, that's going to be a safe spot and that's going to correct you also, and not just whatever you're coming to them with.
Yeah, Ash and I always go back to James chapter 1. Every time that verse comes up, count it all joy when you fall into various trials and tribulations or something like that, for it perfects your faith. And every time that verse pops up, it's like, oh
dang
man,
it.
What's coming down the pipe right now? Because literally without fail, every time it comes up when we're reading in our own Bibles, or it comes up in church, or
we always like squeeze each other's leg really hard, like, oh man, it's coming. But it's so good. I wouldn't trade it, and I would never want to not have it.
No,
I never.
It refines you.
It does.
Like it hurts to be like in a fire and hot, but then at the same time, if you are fighting against it, there's no growth. If you lean into it, then there's growth out of it.
Yeah.
And I think just coming full circle to what you and I are talking about is like in your marriage as well, who your spouse is, there's aspects of that are going to be like trials. They're not going to be your favorite aspects of them that you really wish would change and shift and be better. love your spouse for who they are. Focus on the attributes that you really love in them. Focus on the attributes that you want to have more of, and then give them that positive feedback and just allow them to feel loved for exactly who they are in that moment. And then pray that God will continue to mold and shape them towards him and his character. And I feel like that's...
Yeah. And this is where contentment comes from. Yeah. This is how you feel content with your life, because you find joy in your spouse. You find joy in your children. You find joy in your circumstances, so that you're not constantly, striving and having this desire for more and something different. Oh, I need a different husband, and it'll be better if I just get this, and I'll be better if I just get that. This is how you find contentment.
If you want more, then push more in yourself. Yeah. Like that's the best advice I can give is that if you want more, find the thing. If you want more from your spouse, understand that they very likely want more from you at the same time as well. Go give them what you know that they want more of. So if your husband wants, that they would feel more fed by more physical touch, don't ever withhold from them. Give that to them. If your spouse, if your wife needs you to be giving them more, like taking care of kids, taking care of the home, pulling weight off of them, go feed into that as much as you possibly can. Become that person. Love that.
I think we could roll into the next podcast with this, with like the pancake challenge.
All right, we're gonna do that one later. We're doing that next.
Because that's what you're going into now is like the service and the actions.
All right, we're going to pump race. We're going to do another one after this.
Oh man, we just like set up a big teaser.
All
right. We'll see you guys on the next episode. That was a good one.
Yeah. Your challenge this week, push hard, lean hard into your spouse. Do not think any negative thoughts about them. Stay positive, love who they are, and watch what it does. I
think we could call this our challenge, because we're doing it with you guys.
Absolutely.
We are not perfect, and so many of the things that we are going to share on here is stuff that we are going through ourselves.
Yeah,
we're seeing the day to day.
That's all that it is. We're not lecturing. It's purely like, hey, this is the stuff that's coming through in my mind right now and what I'm working on.
We've gone through it. We've just gone through it. We're going through it.
Yeah.
So we're right there with you guys. So this is our challenge for the week.
Yeah.
We got this.
All right.